Today is Wednesday again. Wednesday means it's Fast Track Money YouTube live session, Yasi with Matt from Financial Imagineer. And as usual, welcome back. And if this is your first time, I'm Yasi, creator behind Fast Track content platform. We talk about career, money, entrepreneurship. And my co-host is Matt from Financial Imagineer. And after achieving financial independence at age of 37, he is very passionate to share with everybody the right money mindset, money habits, and the right way to invest so that you can achieve more freedom in life. So together we have this weekly Fast Track Money YouTube live session where we talk about investment, we talk about anything about money, we talk about what else? We talk about like buy, sell cars or rent and buy real estate and financial freedom, ultimate freedom, plan B, and with various guests. And then today, what is our topic, Matt?
Today, I would like to talk about the evolution of money. Like, where does money come from? How did it start? Why do we actually have money? What does it do? What does money do? And what is maybe the future of money? Where do we stand now? What could be the possible roads going forward? I think there's a lot of things. We are at a very interesting crossroads once again. Some new forms of money start to sprout, but I think the final winner of the next evolutionary step is not decided yet. But definitely there's a lot of things to consider. And eventually the main point of this session is, what does it mean? What does this money evolution mean for you as a user of money? And how can you what do you have to consider about it? How can you be prepared for that? Or what do I think you have to do?
I really like this topic you have chosen because on a daily basis, we all spend money. We exchange Swiss franc against euro. We even buy cryptocurrencies. But have we ever thought about what exactly is the value of money, or what is the role, and how the value of your money will evolve over time, and where is it coming from? It gives us a more better understanding of how we look at it, and then where's the Bitcoin and all this cryptocurrency coming up. I think some of the investors here, it might also help you to see it in with another light. So I'll pass this stage to you, Matt.
Okay, not to bore everyone too much, right? But I think for the start of money, the most interesting thing is probably the money function is like a mean of exchange, right? So you imagine 10,000 years ago, you had no money and you hunt. You may be a very good hunter. You get a lot of rabbits or whatever it is you hunt, mammoth meat. And somebody else is very good at making a knife, maybe sitting in the cave and making the knife. And then how do you exchange it? Like today, you would say the knife is $100, the meat is $20 per pound or whatever. Back there, you have to find each other, right? And then money eventually started with some like mussel shells or coconuts, or there were some things that were used as money in the past. And otherwise, you would always have to define, what do you have? What do you have? What do people bring together to the table? And then you have to agree it has the same value before you exchange. So actually, money, number one, is an enabler. And it's a mean of exchange. Without money, having a shared economy would be much harder. That's probably number one. Number two, money is a unit of account. That means $1, $2, $100, $1 million, you have a number to it. You can imagine how much more something is compared to something else, right? Of course, in an economy based on camels or rabbits or saber-toothed teeth, right? You can also count them. But then it's hard. It gets very hard to exchange and have like the ideal thing. So it measures. It's like a thermometer. Like you have degrees Fahrenheit or degrees Celsius. So you have different scales. That could be the different currencies, but you have different scales where you can measure. And number three, something maybe a lot of people forget: money is a store of value. So it means, now we leave inflation and all that away for a moment, but it means you can actually work, you can save money, you can save up some of your work and value, and you can put it aside for later consumption. So you can money doesn't rot, right? It's not like you have one whole mammoth, and you need to eat it within a week because you don't have a fridge. Money allows you to delay consumption to the future, which is a great thing.
What do you mean by delay the consumption of the future? You mean you can use the money actually later, it will not expire?
Yes, correct. Because 10,000 years ago, whatever you have, right, you don't know what will happen tomorrow. The wind may blow it away, or the mammoth may rot. Your
Yeah,
meat
it's
is
not
not enjoyable
storage. Yeah,
anymore. So whatever
yeah.
you gather, you don't know how long it will last. Money, you can put in a bank account and say, I'm gonna not use it for the next 20 years. You don't have to worry too much about it, right? That's the thing.
Depends on which currency, no, and which country.
Exactly. So so inflation left aside first, and that's where maybe some new solutions of money come in. So what has happened with money over time? Over that, right? So at one point, suddenly people say, let's have gold coins, silver coins, copper coins, and then emperors, the Roman emperors, actually, inflation was known already there. Like one of the first coins, they had a lot of silver and gold inside, but the older the Roman Empire got, the longer it lasted, the lower the silver and like precious metal amount inside these coins actually went. So you had a hidden inflation in that system as well. And then in like a few hundred years later in China, they invented paper money, even more brilliant, right? I'm the emperor. I issue this paper, and this paper will allow you to, it's like I could have my Imagineer franc here. I have an Imagineer franc. I made a $1 million Imagineer franc. The Bank of Freedom, anyone can print it and say, this is official legal tender now. And this actually made things even more simple. Suddenly you could create money out of nothing. And this is still the case today. And that's why maybe some people have some doubt about the financial system, right? Yeah, so that's monetary evolution.
And a question about this, funny, you talk about paper money, that China reinvented this paper money. I chat with someone from Iceland, and literally he said back then in 2000, is it 2010 or sometime, even they have money inside a bank, they couldn't take it out.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So,
well, Iceland was not the only one. In Greece, there was a time during 2011, the Euro crisis. I think Iceland was at the same time, but in Greece, suddenly the banks were afraid of bank runs. The whole financial system is geared, right? So if you put in $100 to the bank can actually keep 10 and borrow out the 90 again. And then whoever takes the 90 can bring it back. And then the bank will keep 10%, which is 9, and borrow out an 81 again. So in the end, you have a multiplier of 10. And if you multiply that $100 that the central bank puts into the system will eventually become $1,000 for the total system.
right.
And the problem is now, if suddenly everyone want to have that $1,000 out, the bank system will collapse. It's called a bank run. And usually it happens when trust goes down very fast. And that happened during the Euro crisis in 2011. So in Greece, at one point, they say you can only withdraw 50 euros per time. Or per day. I think it was limited per day. Cyprus had similar rules. So suddenly that was something unusual. People who were, very wealthy, they could only go get $50 per day, which is very scary if you think about it. So
how to protect oneself from those situations? Is it better to still keep precious metals?
well, precious metals have also certain advantages, but they have disadvantages. I mean, with what you can do, number one, you can keep some paper cash at home. That's maybe number one. You keep maybe, I don't know, 1 month or 2 months of living expenses at home in cash. That would be one way to go about it. If you believe the money, the currency might change, and this might be troublesome, Switzerland even invented like chocolate bar looking gold bars, because the issue is if you buy a 1 kilo gold bar and then you want to go down the road and buy a bread, it's very inconvenient to hand some of this gold to that guy, right? So there is gold bars that you can actually separate by hand. Break it, you snap it. And there, of course, you go back to the bartering economy, because you will go to that baker and say, look, I don't have this money here, but I have this little bit of gold. Would you like to have an exchange, right?
That's so interesting. Can you find a picture of this
Sure, of
snappable
course, of
gold
course.
bar?
And the problem with that gold bar is probably when you buy and sell it, you have a very high margin for whoever produces these things. So it's something that if you believe I really want to have something else than just paper money or foreign currency, you could also have different currencies, right? It is something you can consider to have at home.
Okay.
I'm looking for it.
Okay, the actual gold that you can snap and just give your local bakery a little piece.
Yes. That's one way, right? Another thing is just think back at the war. Usually have something at home that other people may want to have during the crisis. Think back at March 2020 when suddenly all the shops started to close. Long food that lasts very long, right?
Yeah. Survival food.
Survival stuff, right? Or
Yeah, toilet
weapons.
paper.
That's maybe not a good example now, kids.
Yeah,
If you
that's
listen
not a
to
good
this,
example.
no. Stuff that will be in high demand, right?
Back then we were discussing that what would be in high demand, what would be useful when it comes to this situation, right? Like global pandemic or apocalypse. One idea is instead of having this little piece of gold back then it will have no value because it's just precious metal. You have this small dosage of alcohol and the weapons. Weapons and
Yes.
alcohol.
Okay, I can show you now a picture, maybe for people who are interested in this. So this is about money evolution. This is like the most interesting forms of gold, maybe. You see here, you have this so-called combi bar, and it's detachable. Here you see number one, you take it apart, and then each separation is like 1 gram, right? And you basically have a bar of gold. It's like a banknote, but instead of getting change from others, you actually use these little things. And then, of course, you could separate them even further if you think 1 gram is too much.
Why people buy that for? You mean for emergencies? Really, to use it?
Okay. This would be something. Imagine your scenario. There is war, whatever, and you wanna get a way out. You wanna get on a ship or on an airplane. What do you bring in such a situation?
Weapons.
Yes, if you don't have weapons, maybe gold would be very interesting, right?
Yeah.
And if the situation is really screwed up, maybe you bring your fancy banknotes with I don't know how many zeros. People will not care about it.
Yeah, they don't care. Yeah.
But this is extreme scenario. So today maybe I think is an interesting example. So gold could be a form of money, right? But what actually has happened is after they implemented paper money, some central banks start to take over and they use the monetary system to control the economy in a way, which can be super good, right? So you have seen how this works with smaller countries. So if the economy is slumping and is not doing well, the central bank can reduce the interest rates. If the economy is running hot, you increase the interest rates. You have like some switch to play around, right? And this is the control of the governor. Of course, what happens next would be if you look at the Eurozone, which is another experiment, you put a lot of countries together and they all use the same currency. And before, maybe in Southern Europe, the currencies used to have higher interest rates and inflation. And in the northern parts, there was lesser inflation and lower interest rates. Now they all have the same. And somehow, by natural choice, in the South, they kind of take up more debt. And because inflation is never as high as it used to be, the debt doesn't disappear anymore. So it's a problem. And now if you want to change the interest rate in Frankfurt, you cannot help, let's say, the Italian, French, or Spanish, or Portuguese, or Greek, or German economies separately. If you do this change, the whole area using this currency will be affected the same way. So you cannot use the currency anymore as fine-tuning for the economy, which could be a problem, right? Before, with all the single currencies, you could actually smoothen out the curves and up and downs of the economy much better. So it's a tool of money that you can steer an economy, which is actually very useful for people living in an economy. But you have to have people behind that system who understand how to use it. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You talk about it's a very good tool to steer the economy. How can individual investors or average person within that economy to protect themselves against any steering that is not to their favor?
Well, one thing is, if you see an economy is highly indebted, then you could assume the central bank or whoever is running that system maybe has a high incentive to kind of get rid of the debt or lower the debt. And then, of course, the obvious choice, the easiest thing is inflation. So inflation means money loses value over time. And if you do have a lot of debt, and maybe now let's assume it's 5% inflation year over year over year, after 5 years, you have 25% or even more if you add the compounding, that actually your debt is reduced. And the other side, you have assets that grow in the same value. So if you are a normal person and you see the central government is highly indebted and has maybe issues to raise interest rates or change that debt back or pay it off, you could simply also, to the level of comfort you have, like we covered it last week, take up a little bit more debt, right? Then you are on the same page, like the people who steer the economy. That's one way. If interest rates are very high, then it depends. One thing is interest rates can be high. It's a nominal number. It's simply a number. But is it really real interest rates? Maybe I have to highlight this because it's crucial to understand it. Nominal interest rates is the number. Real interest rates is the number minus inflation. So if you have 3% interest rate, but the inflation is 5%, you still lose 2% to inflation, right? Yeah, and therefore it doesn't make sense to have cash. It still makes sense to have debt, even it costs 3%. But one point, there were some points in time where actually the real interest rate was positive, and there it makes sense to buy long-dated debt. You can buy government debt. Then the currency will do well, right? So you can see with these things, indications, what's going on.
Is it like what you mentioned in the previous session? We talk about for average person to hedge against inflation, it's better to have that. And one way to have that from the bank is the mortgage.
Yes. Mortgage is one way, or you could look at, I don't advise for like consumer debt. Don't do that. But okay. you can borrow against your portfolio eventually, and like there is other ways to have.
You mentioned in the previous session.
Yes. Okay. Or you can make an agreement with someone. You can have private debt with people, right? If two people find each other, somebody just want to hold cash, and you have sufficient means to cover that, you can also do it like this.
You mean somebody wants to have cash, and then I have sufficient means to lend this person cash, then I'm not taking a debt, not the other person is taking it.
Yes, you take actually the debt, from the other person, and then you can invest it into something. Because usually when you take debt, you should put the money into something that sustains the value or maybe goes up. And there is a risk with that, right? So it always depends what situation you're in, but that's one way to do it, taking up debt. Yeah.
And previously I had a session. I don't know if some of your audience, if you have remember, if you watched this session, that I actually interviewed Peter Saddington and Matt. Peter has all his investment in cryptocurrency, and Matt, you are not in cryptocurrency. So I want to ask, what's your opinion towards cryptocurrency, for example, Bitcoin as a form of money?
Okay, so now we come at this very interesting point in time. You can imagine this is similar, like before you have gold coins and silver coins, and now a few different people issued their first paper money, right? So now it's the same thing, but instead of paper money, you have Bitcoin, you have Ethereum, you have Dogecoin, you have whatever coin. All people come at different places, come up with different solutions, right? Yeah. And of course, at the end, you don't need 100 or 200 different coins. There will be maybe 1 or 2 winners eventually. And yes, they all have different advantages and disadvantages. What I really like with Bitcoin is it's decentralized. Nobody can actually control it. So it's something that is quite special. And On the other side, the negative part maybe could be the whole energy consumption of Bitcoin. However, there I have to say, bracket, we also do not know how much the existing monetary system uses in energy. The US dollar system, if you would maybe compare it like this, maybe it might be similar. But if you look at these things, Bitcoin is decentralized. It is something stable. It is kind of limited. You cannot have unlimited amount of it. And all of that, you still feel one thing is short. It cannot be really used to steer the economy. So one of the big functions of the big players of the governments is actually to use money to steer the economy. So what if now, of course, you see El Salvador switch to Bitcoin. There are some countries who embrace it. Maybe they say we cannot do the same thing, but it is actually giving up power. And whether or not that works, we are not sure yet. So what happens now if more countries use Bitcoin? Then it may be becoming more adapted in the system, right? So it's like a transition into something new. But what if some countries do not want to give up the power? What if some countries will decide we come up with our own digital coins, right? And we will forbid the other because it's like taking the power away. Then simply by law, don't forget, like in the 1930s, it was forbidden to hold gold in the United States of America. You were not allowed to hold gold. The government had the monopoly on gold, and they had the gold standard later, but you had to use paper money. It's like, you imagine the Fed would say Bitcoin is ours. We centralize Bitcoin to the Fed, but I issue you the US dollar, the new US dollar against it. You are not allowed to hold Bitcoin. We do that, but we give you something else. So it's like playing an intermediary. That could be something that may happen. And then whatever the value is of that Bitcoin, that's up to them to decide in the end. So there could be something, the very big boys will be pissed off if really there's like a loss of power, right? So normal fiat money now, what is very special, if you look at just now Corona crisis, we are in a crisis and they cannot go lower with interest rates. Some countries went negative with interest rates because they lack of monetary tools to help the economy. So what does the US do? They do quantitative easing. They simply print a lot of new money into the system. And I imagine it's like an engine. You have a car engine, and the car engine runs out of oil. The oil is not circulating anymore. So you need to put like 2 liters of new oil into this engine to let it run. This is something, if Bitcoin is really limited, if you use it as a system, you have not that tool.
You will be lucky. I wonder who is watching right now that's holds Bitcoin.
If you have any Bitcoins, or what are your views on Bitcoins, you can say something, or Ethereum, right? I mean, what is my view on it? I believe it's maybe like in the new economy time. So the internet was new in the 1990s, and we had so many companies. And at the end, the NASDAQ went up like crazy, and it was a big boom. And everyone wanted to invest into this .com here, .com there. No matter what .com, you can 10x your money shortly. It was the big run. And then the big washout came in 2000, 2001. It was a huge crash. And some of the players who were supposed to win, like Yahoo and some of the very big ones who we could be so sure they will be the number one 20 years going forward, they disappeared. And some others emerged later. Like Google was nowhere to be found at the beginning of 2000. Facebook was also coming after. So my view here is, yes, the technology is very interesting, but there could be some things maybe they will improve or will adapt to make that like a regulatory framework, to have like this legal kind of sense of control. But this is in opposition to the main point of having decentralized finance. So it may be a new system at all. And then I don't know how else the control mechanism could come in. It remains to be seen. So evolution is ongoing, and the good thing is, I think we are very innovative as species. We have new solutions coming to the market, and the strong ones will get attention, like Bitcoin. Who would have I wouldn't have thought it, but some of my friends told me so 10 years ago, that Bitcoin will end up at 60,000 for one coin, right?
Yeah. I haven't seen any of the comments yet. Maybe people do not want to review if they have cryptocurrency or not. So any other questions from the audience regarding what's your point of view regarding holding cash? What's your point of view regarding the outlook of paper money or precious metals, or you believe more in cryptocurrency? So feel free to leave in the comments below. And regarding that, my point of view is I can also not say what will be in the future, but I'm very positive towards blockchain technology, like decentralized, also DeFi, decentralized finance. I think it's a whole new ecosystem. It could be some coins, some tokens are still in this ecosystem right now, and a few years later they do not exist. Highly likely, but there will be few that is very innovative, very breakthrough technologies that people love to use, and we will see more applications of it. So let's see what happens next year.
Yeah, so evolution is here to continue, right? And it's a creative destruction. Some solutions come and some will go again. We have seen currencies being done in the past. Like I think in the last century, some European countries like Greece, even France or Germany, they had like 3, 4, 5, I think Greece more than 10 currency reforms. Money is here to stay, but it will be improved. It will change. And the great thing is, if you are an investor, one thing is you don't have to just keep money, right? If you invest into assets like real estate, shares, whatever it is, if you have a business or a house or whatever you invest in, even gold or cryptocurrency, it doesn't matter what kind of measure stick is used to measure the value of your holdings. It's the same, like if I measure the heat in degrees Fahrenheit or Celsius, it doesn't matter. It's the same heat, right? Or the same cold. That would be like if you change the currency, if your house is worth 1 million and later it's worth 10,000 for a new currency, it's still the same house. And the worth in regards to maybe how many hours somebody has to work for it will still be the same. The relations will stay the same if you have real assets. That's maybe for monetary evolution, for people that are afraid that some money will disappear. This is one way to kind of hedge against that fear.
I think this topic is pretty big. When we talk about money, we talk about cryptocurrency, we talk about precious metals, we talk about paper money, and now we talk about something in the digital age. We say this: your influence is your there is a monetary value attached to your social influence.
Yes. Oh, yes. In the attention economy.
Yeah, attention economy. Interesting. So if there's no more questions from audience, from you guys today, we will end this session. And then as usual, if you have questions later, feel free to leave in the comment section and we will reply that. And would you want to share with the audience what's the topic for next week?
Oh, I will share that later. Thank you. We have topics lined up, but it's all interesting stuff. Thank you so much.
Okay, then we do review today, and coming back next week, and then see you guys again. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.